Have you watched the previous episode's video? Welcome to the story of this episode, Chapter 45, Difficult Restoration and the Sudden Emergence of Crises. Sumu concentrated, skillfully integrating his own spiritual power with the reverse, time spiritual power, and cautiously probed towards the spiritual power core. The spiritual power core was like a shattered star, emitting unstable light. The chaotic spiritual power around it was like a surging undercurrent, constantly impacting Sumu's spiritual power perception. Sumu knew very well that the slightest mistake could not only lead to the failure of the restoration, but also cause him to be backlashed by this violent spiritual power. The Guardian was engaged in a life and death struggle with the monsters formed by the out of control spiritual power. The monsters resembled ferocious wolves, with black spiritual power flames swirling around their bodies. They lunged at the Guardian with their teeth and claws bared, emitting spine-chilling roars. The Guardian's spiritual power-long sword was swung so densely that it was impenetrable. Each swing sent out a shower of spiritual power sparks, but there were so many monsters, and they were fearless of death, and the Guardian was gradually feeling overwhelmed. "Sumu, hurry up! These monsters are getting more and more difficult to deal with," the Guardian shouted, a hint of anxiety in his voice. Sumu gritted his teeth, his forehead covered with beads of sweat as big as soybeans. He focused all his attention and guided the reverse, time spiritual power to come into contact with the spiritual power core. The moment the two connected, a powerful repulsive force, like an invisible wall, suddenly bounced Sumu's spiritual power away. Sumu's figure swayed, and he almost fell, but he didn't give up. He took a deep breath and tried again. This time, he changed the rhythm of his spiritual power output, approaching the spiritual power core in a softer and more circuitous way. As the reverse, time spiritual power gradually penetrated the spiritual power core, the two began to resonate. The spiritual power core trembled slightly, and the chaotic spiritual power around it seemed to be attracted by something and started to converge towards the core. However, this process was not smooth. The damage inside the spiritual power core was too severe, and from time to time, powerful spiritual power fluctuations burst out from the core, attacking Sumu's spiritual power defense line. While trying his best to stabilize the spiritual power core, Sumu shouted back to the Guardian, "Hold on a little longer, I'll be done soon." The Guardian fought hard to resist the attacks of the monsters. There were already several wounds on his body, and his clothes were stained with blood, but he still held his ground, buying precious time for Sumu. Finally, through Sumu's unremitting efforts, the damaged parts of the spiritual power core began to heal gradually. Light radiated from the inside of the core, illuminating the entire space. Sumu let out a long sigh of relief, and a relieved smile appeared on his face. "It's a success!" he shouted. With the restoration of the spiritual power core, time began to flow around, and the scenery outside the originally still castle also changed. Birds started to fly, leaves rustled, and everything came back to life. However, the space-time fluctuations caused by the restoration of the plane to normal, like a huge stone thrown into a calm lake, attracted a group of mysterious black-robed men. The black-robed men appeared outside the castle like ghosts. Their figures loomed in the darkness, and an eerie aura emanated from them. The story continues. More exciting content is coming up. Subscribe as soon as possible.